what we're building in terms of birth spaces in hospital are actually pathological spaces built to house medically managed childbirth. The spaces very much function to assist the medical technicians to do things to women, rather than spaces to allow labour and birth to unfold as the woman needs and wants to do.
We know from being midwives in practice that we've always changed the spaces to try and accommodate women. We've always tried to turn the lights down, make things warm, use water, keep women off the bed. We've always tried to change the environment. So it seems a sensible thing to think about how can you make the environment the best it could be for women.
And I remember talking to a midwife in the Netherlands about how when we transfer women into hospital, we start, behaving differently because of the environment. And it's much harder to be focused on the woman when you're in a hospital environment. But it's more than that. It's about the whole feeling of the place in terms of how centred you are on that woman. When you work as a home birth midwife, which I did for 15 years, you notice where women give birth, you notice how they move around. And in my experience, women never gave birth in the bedroom. They very often gave birth in the smallest room in the house without windows, because it was the most private, in the loo or the bathroom, and often in the sitting room.
My role really was initially to look at principles, design principles for spaces, about what women want from birthing spaces. My role then was to say, if these are the sorts of spaces that people should have, what are the criteria by which we would then say this is a good or a bad space. And a lot of those are value terms. It really does come to trying to say what's essential in a physical space.
So there's a number of components to having a safe, satisfying birth. One is models of care, one is the environment, and one is how the caregivers interact with one another. And I think that's really mediated by environment.
The Tertiary Education Commission in New Zealand announced a special fund called Encouraging and Supporting Innovation for Tertiary Education. And it was to this fund that we actually applied, believing that we were certainly innovative, if nothing else.
We were very keen to get involved with the Second Life Education New Zealand project because we wanted to create another avenue for students and midwives to explore the issues that face them in practice.
At stage one of this project, we're looking at very basic interactions in terms of just showing people visually what the design's about and directing them in a number of ways to different bits of information. Whereas stage 2 and stage 3, we're looking at a lot more immersion in terms of students and facilitators being able to interact with each other as people in the environment.
Many students don't have the opportunity to work with women in their home environment, and many even don't even get the chance to work in primary units. They often work in tertiary units that are very medicalized, and where the rates of medical interventions are very high, cesarean sections, forceps, epidurals, and some students have very little exposure to normal birth, and yet that's ridiculous, because as midwives that's exactly what we should be experts at. So by creating a birthing unit in Second Life, it gives students the opportunity to see the ideal, to see how the birth unit should be set out, the environment should be set up for women to birth in and for them as midwives to work in a way that they don't get the opportunity in their everyday real working life.
This project is about bringing the birth unit design principles to life. It was important for us that people, including our midwifery students or other people, could walk through the unit and not only see a beautiful space, but to be informed about the importance of the design features for the childbearing experience, so they can understand why we've chosen the sort of colours that we have, why we have the particular sorts of artwork on the walls, why, for example, there's a large living area and kitchen, why you don't walk immediately into the main birthing area but into an ante-room, why there's a large pool, what's the evidence around water immersion in labour and birth. And better still, they won't just be able to see and to be informed, but they'll be able to experience and immerse themselves in this environment.
But it's more than just building a birth unit. The other thing I'm very excited about is that it's a place for them to meet other students, other midwives, and the general public, to connect with people. It's not just there for one class, but it's there for anyone to use. It's Creative Commons license, which means that anybody can come in and use it, and use the resources that we've put there. And that, again, is an extremely exciting innovation for us in midwifery education.